Welcome back to our generic crafting tutorial series. In this bonus episode, we are going to go through our player interactions where we pick up our gathering nodes, and we're going to clean that up just a little bit. I know some of you are really upset about the spaghetti, so we're going to make a little bonus episode just to kind of go through and take our time cleaning that up a little bit. I really need to clean up my player too, but we're going to clean this up a little bit here. So we have our can gather item, and by the little collapsed thing there, you can see all of the string and gobbledygook and spaghetti mess. I think it's honestly pretty clean compared to most things in Unreal Engine, especially when you start working with materials. But we are going to clean this up a little bit. So the first check here is whether or not the gathering node can be harvested. So instead of doing all of these strings out here, we are just going to branch, and if it can be harvested, we're going to continue. If it cannot be harvested, we're just going to go ahead and copy pasta these down here, and make sure that this is false, and we're going to say item hasn't respawned. Item respawning, needs respawn, something like that. And if you watch the other bonus video, you see we now have these log types. I'm just going to leave that to none. And basically here, let's just go ahead and get the display name, and we will format it. We'll format it as well, I suppose. So we're going to come up here, we're going to append, and we're going to say item ID. Oops. Item ID needs to respawn. Now, if we really wanted to get down and dirty with this, we could go into the interactable and basically come up with the math to how long it needs to respawn and trigger a little event in there, just like this interaction, to see how long it's going to take to respawn. I'm not too worried about that at this point. So that's going to come off here. We no longer need this and, so I'm going to pull that down to this can interact. But we do still need this and. So now I can delete that. Now we don't have that string over there. And we also don't need this string, because if we have gathering classes enabled, we can just go ahead and interact. So that's just part one here. Part two, we're actually going to collapse a lot of this into a function. So now we don't need this can harvest. So basically everything after this inventory check, does inventory have space, which we're also going to redo in another bonus episode here, is going to be collapsed into a function. That way we can kind of pull off of this and the item ID. So we're going to pass item ID, we're going to pass has space, and we're going to pass the quantity as well as this here. So I'm going to take everything from this point on and collapse it real quick. I'm going to collapse to function, and we're just going to call this f get, or just get node interact message, or something like that, and we're going to go ahead and actually output these values here instead of having the interaction message be set inside of this. This is just going to be a simple getter, so we probably won't even have the execution pin here. So let's go ahead and break this open and look at it. Our condition, we only need one condition, right? And this is has inventory space, or just let's say has space. We do still need item ID, but we don't need item ID 3 times. Let's see what our amount was. And that is just the quantity coming in, so we'll just call this quantity. And we will call this type. That way we don't have a stringy mess. So up here where we have type on all this stuff, we are going to go ahead and get type. Whoops. Okay, and just plug that in here, and up here. That way we don't have that routed all across the map. The first thing we're going to check here is has space. If it doesn't have space, we need to go ahead and return all of this data. So we're going to add a return. And this return is going to have the Boolean for can interact. And it is also going to have the message in string. So we're going to go ahead and return a string for message. And this is going to be can interact. And the message is just going to be inventory is full. And we can go ahead and remove all that stuff. Because now, inside of this, let's go ahead and remove all these extra pins that we no longer need. Whoops. I do still need that type pin. Pull gathering type all the way in. Now in here, we can just go ahead and set this can interact and set the message. Nice and easy. Right? That way we're not doing the set message inside of this every time. We won't have our event log here, but you can always make your event log in here if you really want to. I don't care that much. The interactable widget is already showing us the message. We're going to come over here, get item ID, just to clean it up a little bit. And this one here is quantity, so we're going to get quantity for our pens. And we could collapse this into another function if we really wanted to. But I'm not too worried about that. So now up here, when we are getting our use gathering classes, right? If use gathering classes is false, then we can interact. So we're just going to return true and this return value. We're going to do that and delete that. Same thing up here. If this one returns true, so this is use levels. So if use levels is true, or is false, I should say, we're going to go ahead and return that value. And same thing here, just plug that in. And one more time off of this final check, so use levels is true, and we need to check and see if we actually have the level. We're just going to go ahead and return this. And we'll just route that down here, and we'll plug it right in here. So this is already a lot cleaner, right? I think a lot cleaner, in my opinion anyway. Now we could do one more thing here. We could collapse all of this other stuff basically into a function inside of our manager here. So we could go in the class manager and we could say, we could pull in level and we could say, does player have level? Does player have class unlocked? All that stuff we could get out. So we're going to duplicate item ID, pull item ID up in here. Type equal none, yes, so that is all correct. And that's kind of, if you really, really want this to be like as clean as possible, I don't think we need to do that here. I think this is probably fine for us, right? This is a lot cleaner than it was anyway. But if you really wanted to, you could collapse all of this into a function inside of your class manager and just return. The only two things you would need to return is has class and level, or has class. So I'll go ahead and just show that real quick, just in case you wanted to. We would basically we would take all of this stuff here, control copy that. We'll go into our class manager, and we will add a getter function here. So get has class and level. This can be pure. And this is basically just going to return two booleans. So B has class and B has level. right? So we're just going to take our gathering levels here. And we're just going to actually call this has gathering class and levels, since this is just for gathering. Now, if you wanted to do it for crafting and gathering, you would do the same thing we did everywhere else, right? You'd add that boolean in there, b is crafting, and select. Maybe we'll do that at some point. We'll check after this is done to see if we need to. I don't think we need to. This is also going to have this in type. So, in type. And it's also going to have the in item ID. So we'll have in item ID. And that's just kind of a pass by. I just called it item ID. And that's just kind of a pass by to get the item level. We could put item level in here if we wanted to. So instead of item ID, we could say item level. I think I'll actually do that instead. That way we're not just passing the item ID. And then we could say get item level and pass that in. And this. So instead of doing that there, we're going to do that here. And this is going to be get gathering has class and level. And then we're going to pass the item ID and the type right into this. And same thing here, has class, has level. It is going to be has class for this interact, and has level for this interact. And that way we don't need any of this anymore. And I'll just actually go ahead and use this. I know I'm on the fence about this. I really didn't want to do this, but it does make it a lot cleaner, right? It does make it a lot cleaner. Let's go ahead and move those over, clean that up a little bit. And since this is oriented this way, I'll actually move class to the bottom and level to the top. And we could always have an and here, so yeah, I'm not going to overcomplicate it with that, but we could always have an and inside of here to make sure that we are actually using class and level. I'm just going to put class down on the bottom. So we're going to get our gathering classes here. Contains, and that's going to be this get in type. It's always going to be at the bottom when you're doing this inside of functions. Or in type equals none. And that is going to be our has class. And our level here is still going to be basically the same thing. So I'm just going to move this up here and plug that in there. And I'll just duplicate in type so it's not, there's not strings everywhere. Basically same thing, right? We're just checking our gathering levels as index, seeing if we have the appropriate level required for the item level. And if we do, we're going to go ahead and say has level. And I'll just route this. That way it's just a little bit neater. And we'll just put this in the category of getters, since it's just a simple grab here. And now we're returning that, so a little bit cleaner if you like to do things that way. You probably don't even really need to collapse this anymore. I'm still going to keep it collapsed. But yeah, that looks good, right? Has space, false, can't interact, inventory's full, has space, true. First we're going to check and see if we use gathering class. If we don't use gathering class, then can't interact is true. If we do use gathering class, we need to check and see if we use levels. If we do use levels, then we're going to use this has class. If we don't use levels, I should say, we're going to use this has class. And if we do use levels, we're going to see this has level, which is also going to make sure that we have the class. So yeah, I think that's good. I think that looks clean enough. We'll go in real quick and test to make sure that everything is still firing off the way it should. That's going to level those out. And since this doesn't adjust any data, like I said, we could probably just make this pure. I think this would work fine as a pure function as well. We'll just make it pure, and we'll just pass right on through. Yeah, I think that looks good. Alright, that's a lot cleaner than the spaghetti mess we had anyway. Even though it is slightly more complicated, it forces you to do a bunch of other stuff. So since I don't have any classes, it's just going to pull up the gathering, because we don't have classes. Whoa. Forgot I made myself super speed. We'll pick up our mining class real quick. Level 1 miner. So we can mine the iron ore. We can't mine the steel. We can't mine the silver. If I mine this iron ore, the iron ore no longer exists. Iron ore needs to respawn. And we still can't mine anything else because we don't have a high enough level. And whenever that iron ore decides it's going to respawn, we can go ahead and mine it again. And now we can mine the steel ore. So it looks like everything is still working exactly how it was. So that's good, right? We didn't break anything. We just cleaned it up a little bit there. Thank you for watching. This has been our bonus episode on how to quickly clean up this can gather item sequence of checks that we had in there. I know it was a big spaghetti mess, probably very hard to read. So now it's not a big spaghetti mess. It's nice and neat. We can also pretty much do the same thing in our crafting bench, but I didn't think our crafting bench was too messy here. We're basically just getting the crafting class and seeing if it contains the type. Because crafting classes inside of the crafting bench, it's going to run its own conditional logic to see if we have the class level. If you're enjoying the videos so far, I urge you to join our Patreon. For just $3 a month, you'll get access to all of the videos in this series as soon as I create them. Always available on Patreon, always free, and ready to go. You'll also get a copy of the example project so you can follow along step by step with a real visual guide in the project.